Hello, everybody. Welcome back to National Park After Dark. We have a very, very exciting episode today.
I tried my very best not to fangirl.
You did great.
Thank you. I really tried. So we are really excited because today's a little bit of a unique episode. We have a collaboration with one of our favorite podcasts ever, and that is Morbid. I don't think they need much of an introduction since they are really well known in the true crime community. As far as podcasting, they've been doing this for many years, and it was such a pleasure to speak with them. And this podcast, when I was moving out west, I was listening to them like on my road trip. So to see even in our email, like looking forward to our chat, I'm like, you're going to talk to me? Why?
It's so exciting because obviously Morbid is such a big podcast and they've been very, very successful. Ash and Alaina have. And to see how far our podcast has grown and that we're getting the opportunity to talk with them and to hang out and do some fun stories or I say fun, I should say some Morbid stories, but we're even going to go to some national parks and national park run areas today, so it's super exciting and we're just so stoked for this. This is such a fun point in our show and how far we've grown, and now we get to hang out and talk to the girls from Morbid who we've just been listening to for years.
Yeah, and we did do, this is probably now a couple weeks ago, we did an episode on their show. We covered a couple of spooky lighthouses. So if you're interested in that, you should go check that out. And it was released on August 24th on their feed. But today we have them on our show and we're kind of bringing them out of their comfort zone a little bit. So we agreed on having them we said, you can pick whatever stories you would like to do. We don't want to hear what they are as long as they're in an area that is either a national park or run by the National Park Service. Let us know the place and we will do some background research on the location and then you can tell us a story. So that's what we did. That's how the format of today is going to go. Cassie and I are going to introduce the locations and then Ash and Alaina will be telling us a story.
Yeah, so we're so excited. Let's all welcome to the show Ash and Alaina. Hello. Well, thank you so much, Ash and Alaina, for joining us. We're so excited to have you here. We're big fans of your podcast, Morbid. So
thank you so much.
We're excited to the ladies who need no introduction. We had so much fun on your show a couple weeks ago now, and everyone, when we posted it, our audience was going nuts.
Oh, I love that. When we said that you guys were on, everyone went nuts. Yep. Everyone was like, "This is a great collaboration," and it was so much fun.
We had a great time, and Terrible Tilly people are like, I've had so many people who live around in the Pacific Northwest. They're like, I have to go now.
Oh,
because it's so close.
You have to.
I want to go, and it's not even close to me. I'm let's go.
It's the farthest, and I still want to go.
It is, yeah.
It's literally the farthest.
Yeah, but I want to go.
Yeah. Well, today we're bringing you to the dark side, and we're bringing you outdoors.
Woo!
I know, it's a little out of your comfort zone.
Completely out of our comfort zone.
Well, I know you guys have 2 stories today, and Cassie and I just know the location, but we don't know the actual stories.
Ooh.
So we're going to do a little intro to the story or the location itself, and then you take it away.
Perfect.
So,
sounds good.
Scare the pants off you.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Can't wait. So we're going to first go to the Appalachian Trail, right?
Yes.
Perfect. And Cassie, you haven't done the AT, but your friend has, right? Erin.
Yeah, my friend Erin, she did the AT last year, and it seems pretty fun and also just a lot. I mean, walking thousands of miles. I joined her on a portion of it. It's the most.
Did you really?
I joined her, but it was in Vermont, and I was there for 6 miles, and then I went home and slept in my bed.
6 more than I would have done, so go off, girl.
I was just going to say 6 more than I've done, so.
6 more than I'll probably ever do, so.
It's close by if you guys ever want to hop on it just for a minute.
That's
just be like,
true.
We stepped on it.
I'm pretty sure I've stepped on it at one point, but I did not hike.
I probably haven't.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've heard of it.
That counts
part
for
of
sure.
it. I'm sure I've seen a tree on it or something.
There you go.
Yeah, you've seen like the little white marker
Yeah,
for
exactly.
it.
I was
There
like,
it is.
There you
There it
go.
is.
And it's a beautiful trail. I mean, it goes, like Cassie said, thousands of miles. So I'll do a brief intro on it for anyone who is not familiar with the AT. Because like we said, when we were on your show, we kind of talked about how national parks are way more than just like the big units like Yellowstone and Yosemite. So the AT is managed by the National Park Service, and it spans 15 states. It comes in at roughly 2,193 miles and is the longest hiking only trail in all of the US. The trail passes through 8 different national forests and 6 different national parks and is known for its spectacular view of the Appalachian Mountains, which is what it's named after. And because the trail is so long and travels through so many various landscapes and different climates, there's a diverse amount of plant and animal life here, depending where you are on the trail, of course. So if you're there, you can run into black bears, coyotes, porcupine, moose, deer. There's herons and woodpeckers, rattlesnakes and black widows, and then like chipmunks and turtles and nicer things.
The black widows. And then there's chipmunks there too.
Yeah, so and squirrels.
Yeah. Can't forget them.
So there's a lot of North America's iconic wildlife here throughout the trail. And even though there's a lot of cool wildlife, the trail's known to be particularly challenging because there's an estimated 450,000 feet worth of elevation changes throughout the trail, and some peaks reach over 6,000 feet in elevation.
God.
So to say it's a little complex and quite strenuous would be a little bit of an understatement, which makes anyone who accomplishes this trail just like rock stars in our books.
You had to hand out medals
For
this
real.
kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like a picture at the end is just like kind of like it's so gratifying, and then you're just like, okay, that's it. I guess.
Exactly.
I think they do certificates and little pins that they send you if you like prove or document that you actually did it. So you do get something, and you get like recognition into the Hall of Fame of AT hikers.
I did.
Oh,
it.
nice.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean someone should be responsible for handing that out because it is quite the accomplishment. And every single year, about 3 million people hike some portion of the AT. So that's a lot of people, but according to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, just over 3,000 attempt to hike the entirety of the AT, the whole 2,000-ish miles, and 1 in 4, roughly, will complete the whole thing from start to finish.
Jeez.
So Erin is a badass.
Yeah.
For real.
Breathing rarefied air over there.
Quite
wild.
literally.
She's going to listen to this and she's going to be like, oh my gosh. Wow.
You are impressive.
Didn't she do I'm like totally putting a spotlight on her, but she's the only person I know that's done this. Wasn't there a portion where she like did it naked?
Yeah, it's
That
part of
makes
the
her so much better. Somehow. I didn't think she could get better.
it's part of like what you do on the trail. I guess you do like a day of hiking naked, and she has a photo where she just has like a leaf in front of her.
That's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
That is magnificent.
I love that it's like just for tradition.
Yeah, just
That's
'cause.
great.
It's like it's time.
Just being one with nature.
It's kind of tradition in Vermont because I have been out on the trail sometimes, not on the AT, just hiking. The other day I was out hiking and I walked by and there was just a naked guy walking down the trail. I'm like,
Oh,
Wow.
you're like,
Hey.
wow.
What's up?
Just free.
He was very respectful, though. He like turned around and hit away from
hit
me
his
and kind of
business.
shied away, hit his business. And then he's like, hey, have a nice hike. And then he like waited for me to walk by and then he continued. I was like, oh, that's really nice because I
Very
was by
kind.
myself.
I would
Yeah, it was
have.
very kind. I'm like,
I
he's
think
not being weird.
The rules of
So
nudity.
freeing.
I would not
So
know how to
freeing.
respond to that. Like, I'd just be like, wow.
You just be
all
like,
right.
hey, you too, man.
Get it, dude. Sure.
Nice breeze out here today.
Hope you have sunscreen on, my dude, because
That happened. I think I've told you this, Cassie. Like when I lived in Colorado the first time, we were hiking up to like this abandoned mine shaft to look at the free-tailed bats, like migration.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And it's like sunset, like we're getting up there, we're like 2 miles in, and all of a sudden we encounter like 3 different naked, like nudist people.
I had no
And
idea this was like part of hiking.
Neither did I.
I just
It's
not common. It's not common.
Like,
it's a subgenre.
Everyone's naked in
an
the woods.
obstacle that you will come across.
Well, to be fair, the biologist that was leading this particular like little trek, he was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we hiked through a nudist colony to get to our." I'm like,
That makes sense.
Okay,
You're like, all right.
would have been nice to just like as a heads up, so I wasn't rude.
Just like, you know.
We're infiltrating, not them.
Yeah, oh my God, it's like you feel kind of like you're the one out of place.
Yeah.
Do I have to take my clothes off?
Yeah. You feel like you're like voyeuristically there. You're like, I swear I'm not. I'm just going through
Everyone's
here.
like side-eyeing you, like, who is this person with clothes on? Right now?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I can take my top off if you want.
I'm so
if it
sorry
makes
you
you
got
more
unclothed.
comfortable. But anyways, okay. So for those on the trail on the AT, which is not going through a nudist colony that I'm aware of, there is an option to stay in one of the more than 250 backcountry shelters located throughout the trail. They average about 8 miles apart, although there are some stretches of the trail where there can be up to 30 miles of nothing in between locations.
Wow.
And one of those shelters is named the Wapiti Shelter, meaning elk in both Cree and Shawnee. The mammal was once abundant in the Appalachians until around the 1860s, when they were locally extirpated from the area through various hunting methods. And this shelter is situated in Virginia along the trail, and it's northeast of the popular campground of Walnut Flats. And from what I hear, it's where Alaina is taking us today for her story.
It sure is.
Woohoo.
And that, thank you for that. I want to say it like Winnie. Thank you for that marvelous introduction.
Ooh, there you go.
I love
She brings
that.
the morbid quick.
I was like, wait, where's this quote from? All right, so I'm going to be taking you guys back to 1981 and then pulling you forward to 2008. So there's
real
two
journey.
separate events here.
Okay.
Way back in May 1981, we're going to be following Laura Susan Susu Ramsey and her very good friend Robert Mountford Jr. They were both 27 years old at the time. They were working as social workers from Maine. They were going to be hiking this trail together. I believe that Laura joined Robert like halfway through. He was doing like the entire trail.
Gotcha.
Now, I wasn't able to find a ton about Robert Mountford Jr., like his life or anything before this, but I did find, I ended up stumbling upon a page that was talking about Laura, and it said that she was a musician, a singer, an actress. She was said to be hilarious, super intelligent, like straight A student. She was very loving, just like an amazing person to be around. She was elected homecoming queen of her high school. And everything that I read was like, she wasn't that typical homecoming queen that was elected because she was like the popular girl. Like she was elected because everyone genuinely was like, she is a queen. Like she
Aw.
is just
Like
wonderful.
she's just the best.
Yeah, like she just treats everyone amazingly. Everyone feels comfortable around her. She was just like purely wonderful, basically. Her epitaph actually states that she was a ray of sunshine, and everyone says that it's the perfect descriptor for her.
Aw.
Now, they were actually hiking the Appalachian Trail together for a fundraiser. They were raising money for a school for disabled children back in Maine, and this school was actually run by Robert's mother, which makes this whole thing even more tragic when we find out what happens.
It also just shows how good of people they were. I mean, you just said
Exactly.
she's a ray of sunshine, and then they're out there for disabled children. I mean, that's amazing.
Exactly. And that his mother runs this school. It's like clearly this is just like a whole gene pool of amazing people.
Really?
So May 19th, 1981, they ended up eating dinner together with a fellow hiker by the name of Randall Lee Smith. They had met him at one of the general stores along the way, and he just kind of like hung out with them. But they said everyone who saw him was like, he was a little strange, but they were really nice people. And everyone says that, you know, along the Appalachian Trail, you kind of help each other out. You're nice to each other. It's like this nice little community of people who just want to help each other out and just want to see each other get to where they want to go.
Yeah,
And
you're
it's-
all there for the same reason.
You're all in the same situation.
Yeah, like
Exactly.
everybody, you know, this person can probably help you with this thing and you'll be able to help them with another thing. It's just like a nice little community there.
One hand washes the other.
Exactly. And they were on their way at this time, May 19th, to the Wapiti shelter, and they were going to be staying there for the night. Now, talking about Randall Smith really quick, he was a troubled kid who came from a very strange home life with his mother, Loretta. There was a lot of weird things in his childhood. He was known as a loner in school. He was obsessed with taking off on the Appalachian Trail. Especially on the weekends, he would just be gone, like just going off into the wilderness. It was usually probably to escape his very, like, kind of sad life and also probably his own thoughts. People in his life described him as a habitual liar as he got older. He even had the nickname LR for Lion Randall.
Lion Randall.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And apparently he didn't really care about that. Like, people would call him that and he was like, yeah. Like, he was perfectly fine with being called that.
He's proud of it. He's like, yeah, I am that.
Yeah. He's like, you can't trust me, so leave me alone. No.
He's bleak.
So, yeah, he is bleak.
Bleak, like Lion Randall.
Honestly, everything about Randall Smith, his entire life was bleak till the very end. Now, they all had a meal together at the Wapiti shelter. They had invited him to sit with them and eat. Like, they were those kind of people. Had a nice meal. Everybody's chatting. After the meal was done, Smith suddenly stands up and just attacks Laura and Robert. Out of nowhere, unprovoked, just attacked them. He ended up shooting Mountford in the head with a .22 caliber pistol. Just shot him, pulled out a pistol and shot him in the head. Then he ended up bludgeoning Laura with a piece of iron that he produced out of his pocket and stabbed her multiple times. He killed them both. He dragged the bodies away in their own sleeping bags, and he buried them in shallow graves away from each other.
Oh,
and this was unprovoked. Nothing was stolen from them.
Like, they had just fed him.
They had just fed him and treated him like a human being. Like, that's all they had done.
Scary.
Was just invited him to eat with them.
Just a total random act of violence.
Completely random. And what we find out, too, is there is no motive. Like, this guy has no motive for what he does.
He just wanted to.
He's just an evil guy. Like, he really is. And they were reported missing really quickly because there was a fellow hiker that they had met on this trip, because obviously they came along across a lot of people and they were really cool people. So they made a lot of friends. And so this fellow hiker had made plans with them to meet in a place above Pearisburg, but they didn't show up. And when they didn't show up, she couldn't get in touch with them. So she contacted the police and were like, I'm concerned. They wouldn't just blow me off like this. And they're really experienced. I don't think they got lost along the way. So their family members actually ended up driving out from Maine to come here and aid in the search. And all of them were super concerned. They were all 100% sure that foul play had happened here, because especially Robert was such a skilled woodsman that they were like, I don't see an accident happening. Like, something bad happened here. And authorities asked people on the trail if they had seen the couple or heard from them, because obviously they had made some friends. And a few of them mentioned that they had seen Robert and Laura with a, quote, strange looking man. And they said they saw them in various places on the trail with him, especially leading up to their disappearance. Most of them said they'd seen them all heading towards that Wapiti shelter area. Now, during this investigation and search, multiple people also said that someone they had known or come across who went by the name of Lion Randall was walking around telling people that he knew what happened to those missing hikers. So he was just bragging about it.
Oh, God. So he's just telling people. And he's doing this on the trail, you said?
Yeah, he's going on the trail. And obviously this was spreading through like the hiking community, so like everybody on the trail was like a little on edge, being like, what happened to these people? Like, we gotta be careful. Yeah, like everybody was taking safety precautions, and he's walking around and people are talking about it, and when he hears people talking, I wonder where they are, I wonder what happened, he's like, I know what happened. And like won't say what happened, he's just telling them.
Imagine being alone out there and someone says that to you, and you're just like, I don't have service, I can't call 911, and I'm in the middle of the woods,
and I'm stuck here. Like, I can't just be like, okay, I'm done, I'm gonna leave now. It's like, nope, now I have to hike all the way back out if I want to leave.
It's like I'm 30 miles away from civilization now.
Yeah, like, what do you do there? It's so scary. And he was a scary guy. Like, he had a scary way about him. He looked scary. It was just, these people were really good people for just like sitting with him and having dinner and not being like, okay, creep, like, please go away.
Right.
I was gonna say, it sounds like everyone else was like, he was scary. And they're like, yeah, it's okay. Like,
and they were just like, sure, we'll feed you dinner. Like, we'll just hang out with you because you seem like you're strange and a loner, and we'll just kind of be nice.
Extend some kindness.
Yeah, exactly. And as we'll see, he even recognizes that they were kind people because they find a note later that he reveals, like, wow, they were really nice to me.
Wow.
Like, so he was just evil. Now, May 30th, 11 days after they went missing, the Wapiti shelter was finally searched. And investigators found a ton of blood between the floorboards. All of a sudden, I think one of them was looking down and was like, I saw this weird dark stuff between the floorboards, and I stuck a knife in there and kind of like skidded it across. And when I pulled it out, it was wet blood.
Ooh.
Now, the blood matched that of Robert Mountford and Laura Ramsey. A search of the area revealed a barely covered in leaves gravesite about 30 yards away from the crime scene. This is when they found Laura Ramsey in her sleeping bag. The following day, and they looked everywhere, they could not find Robert. The following day, they brought in canines, and the canines were the ones that led them to Robert, who was also found in his sleeping bag a few hundred yards away from the crime scene. And again, barely covered, like shallow graves, just leaves thrown on them.
Like he didn't care if they were found or not.
Now, autopsies showed that Robert had been shot in the head, and Laura had she had intensely fought back against her attacker. There was tons of defensive wounds. She had been hit very hard in the head with a piece of iron, and he had used not only a knife to stab her, but a long nail was used to stab her over 13 times. Yeah.
A nail?
Yeah, a long nail, which I'm like, what?
And it just shows you that he like came prepared and ready to do this. Because why else would he have an iron pipe and a long nail?
Like he has several different weapons on him, and these aren't weapons like you don't need a big long nail to fight a bear off.
No.
Yeah.
And for something with no motive, it's so personal.
Exactly. Yeah. And so vicious.
And like rage filled.
But it's really scary to think that somebody that you spend the entire evening with and like the whole day with just snaps out of nowhere, just pulls out a gun and shoots you in the head. Well, and like, it's like no argument, nothing.
Yeah, and it's like, did he snap or was he planning on doing this to them all day? And it's like they were sitting with him all day and didn't even realize that this was going to happen.
Probably. He probably had this in his head.
And we're hiking.
Yeah. Right. They're just hiking together, have no idea.
Wow.
And investigators also found around this crime scene a paperback book that Laura had in her bag that she was reading along the trail. And inside the book, they found bloody fingerprints on the book, and they were matched to Randall Lee Smith.
Wow.
Who was already in the system because he had worked for some like shipyards and he had to have his fingerprints on file. So they were able to match it right away. Now, they searched Smith's home and they found a blood-soaked pair of blue jean shorts that belonging to him, and the blood was matching the victims. They found it in the basement of his home. They also found what was said to be, they wouldn't say exactly what was found, but they said other items belonging to the missing hikers down there.
Oh.
Now, interestingly, according to the Standard Times, and it was an article written by Will Haywood, they apparently also found medical instruments down there that he had fashioned into sex toys.
Bye.
Yeah, thought that was interesting.
No.
Yeah.
What kind of medical?
Thank you. Because when I read that, I was like, I'm sorry. What? Like, what medical thing did you fashion into? What?
Yeah, like,
I'm just like racking my brain of like,
trying to think.
Every type of instrument.
Everything is stainless steel and sharp.
Like, I'm actually shutting my brain down in order to not think about that.
I was really trying to come up with what these could be, but I cannot fathom.
That's
what
for
he
the
did.
better. That's for the better.
It really
guys.
is.
We don't need to know. We weren't meant to.
We're all just like,
And did he work in the medical field? How did he obtain medical instrument? I mean, it's not difficult, but it's random.
But it's like, where did that come from? Well, his mother had worked in the laundry room of a hospital his entire life. And they think that maybe he had stolen those items at some point during that time. Now, they also found a note in the ashtray of his truck, and this note was just a little scribbled note that he had written, and it said, quote, "This boy and girl have been so nice to me. It's going to be a real shame when the time comes to get rid of them."
Or like it doesn't have to come to
fully
get
planning.
Like, what?
Fully planning it.
Fully planned ahead. It's like, oh, they're really nice, but
yeah, bummer.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. And just recognizing like they've been really kind to me and that now I have to do this. And it's like, you don't.
And that there's no reason for it.
None.
Yeah.
Like just no motive given at all.
And like you were saying, like people thought he was scary looking and like felt like off about him. I'm sure he ran into people that were not nice to him. And it's like, I mean, I'm happy he didn't pick other people, but you picked the 2 people that were the kindest.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't get it.
It just makes you not want to be nice.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing.
It's so true.
I was driving home today, actually, and the Long Trail is in my town and goes through, and there was this guy hitchhiking, and I'm sure where he was going, it's about like 4 miles north of my house. And I'm like, if I didn't think you were going to murder me, I would totally give you a ride.
Right?
If I didn't know you were going to murder
alas,
me.
here we are.
Alas,
terrified.
I'm just going to go home.
Yeah, absolutely not. So, and you look at the 70s and hitchhiking, and it's like, woo.
Yeah. There's been so many cases that I'm like, ooh, glad I never did that and never picked anyone up.
Yeah. It's not great.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so sad because the hiking community as a whole, kind of like you touched on, especially on the AT, there is a community of, you know, like we want to help each other out and we're all here for the same reasons.
You
and
look
like,
out for each other.
You look out for each other. And there's a lot of, I mean, not to call Cassie out, but Cassie and her partner Al like took in people from the trail. With the Long Trail, was it?
Oh,
Yeah, some through hikers we met out hiking, and they were like, "Oh, we're staying in this town tonight, but there's no hotels or anything." And I was like, "Oh, I live in that town. Do you want to just like stay here?"
Oh my
It
God.
was kind of a mutual trust, though. You know, like they had to trust we weren't bringing them in to murder them.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
and now we're all
so-
friends.
And now
I
it's
love that.
you're friends. Yeah. And it's like that is kind of the understanding, like that mutual understanding that like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. We're all here
Yeah.
for the same thing. And then, but it's things like this that make you
Pause.
question that and pause. And it's a shame because 9
is.
times out of 10, it's like could be a beautiful, like, friendship,
Yeah,
exactly.
like a good friendship.
Or even just a cool couple hours with somebody. Like,
Yeah, you might meet somebody that you never would have.
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's from what I've read, just to like point it out again, this trail is supposedly, when it comes to like safety, it's a very safe trail. Like murders are not common, rapes are not common, assaults are not common on this trail. Like it is, considering how huge it is, like there would likely, I think like proportionally probably should be a lot more considering what a terrible thing the human race is. But it's a really safe place. So this is a very strange thing to happen. So like a hiker shouldn't be scared to like hike this trail that they're going to be murdered, because it's really not a common thing.
Yeah.
But
The AT is actually full of really great people for the most part.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
And you should be able to trust another. It just sucks that we can't trust another
Yeah,
human being
it
just to
does.
be
Yeah.
a kind person. Like that you have to second guess somebody being kind is like, are you just being kind so you can murder me? Like you,
Yeah,
right.
It sucks that we have to do that.
What's the
Yeah.
caveat here?
Yeah.
is-
Right.
Like, why are we
What's
the
gonna
worst? Why are we the worst thing that happened to
Like,
this
why
planet?
can't I just give you a ride? Or why
Yeah.
can't I just eat dinner next to you? Or
Because the world would be
Yeah.
such a nice place if we all just like stop murdering each other, you know?
It'd be great.
I wish if it was that easy, we could just be like, "Hey guys, let's all stop murdering each other." And
Yeah.
everyone was like, "Yeah,"
And everyone was
that's
like,
a great
"Wow."
idea. I never thought of that.
That's a great idea. Because like you taking in the hikers, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And it's like,
Yeah.
but everybody's got to like second guess, like, is this person?
I'm
gonna
sure
hurt
they were like walking in and they're like,
Yeah.
"All right, where are the exits?"
me?" Exactly. But it really is like a rare thing. But after this whole thing, once they found the really strange things in his basement, he had actually fled the state and was nowhere to be
I
found.
bet.
Yeah, he got out of there. So at this time, the manhunt is active for him. They know this is the guy, but it's kind of at a standstill at the same time because they don't know where he went.
And that's scary because they know he's an active hiker and like
Yeah.
an outdoorsman, so he could be lurking anywhere.
Exactly. He
Any
could
trail.
exactly. And he was an avid outdoorsman. Like
Right.
he was going to be able to stay outside for a long time. They're just hitting walls at this point. So the investigator leading the case was Tom Lawson. And at this point he said it was so overwhelming and it was just like they were hitting wall after wall. And he said he took his family, like his kids and his wife, on just like a little getaway to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. He was like, we were literally going for a few days just to like clear my mind because I was so stressed about this case. And at this point, while they were there, he was called by the police station back home and told that police had arrested Randall Lee Smith. But they didn't arrest him back there. They arrested him in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
What?
Where he was. Yeah. Like, what are the odds?
Actually.
Oh, that's scary.
He's like, why did I go on vacation in the place that he had run away to? Like,
It's like, I was trying to get away from this.
And I followed him.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Unbeknownst to me.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It was wild. I was like, what are the odds?
And Randall didn't know that he was there?
No idea. Like,
That's
Randall
weird.
had just run there before.
That's
and
crazy.
he happened to go. So weird. Now, when they picked him up, he said that he had amnesia and he didn't even know his name. He didn't know why he was in Myrtle Beach, didn't know his name, didn't know anything.
If it doesn't work for the housewives, it's not going to work for you.
You should have said it to him, you know?
That's what I
should have called you down there and been like, this does not work for the housewives.
I would have told him.
So, you know? But they were like, we know this is not amnesia. We know that you know who you are, but we got to figure out how to like trick you into admitting that you know who you are. So apparently he had like this guy, he had clearly been staying outside. He had been like on the run because he was covered in bug bites. Oof. Covered. And they said he had like scratched some of them raw. It was just like really bad. And he was clearly uncomfortable and like a mess.
The
And
bugs
they
knew.
They did. And so the police were like, okay, we can use this. So one of them was like, dude, like, I know a doctor and I know that some of these are like really bad and need medical attention like right now. Like they're going to get really bad. Like you could die from this. You should probably see a doctor. And he was like, oh shit. Okay. And they were like, okay, cool.
Those bug bites are fatal.
They were literally like, these mosquito bites could kill you, my dude. And he was like, I believe you.
Right.
So he was
that
like,
sounds right.
yeah, and he totally bought it. That's all they did. And they went, here's a consent form, a medical consent form, and we'll get you a doctor in here. And he signed the paper, Randall Lee Smith.
What a dingus.
Idiot.
And they were like,
come on.
Really, dude? I have amnesia, but I do know my signature and my name.
Yep. And they were just like, thank you, Randall. And he was like,
how's that amnesia doing?
crap.
You
So
feeling better, son?
So that fell apart real quick for him.
Good.
But they they extradited him back to Virginia. And now, instead of saying I have amnesia and I don't remember anything, they were like, you need to tell us what happened. And he just said, no, I'm not telling you.
Yeah, I
And he
knew
just
was
said, I'm
gonna be
not
a
talking
jerk.
about it. So now they're like, you remember what happened? And he's like, sure do. Just not going to tell you. Wouldn't talk
What a
about
dick.
it. Yeah. Refused to acknowledge them. Such a dick. And they did psychiatric testing on him because of the whole amnesia thing. They were like, let's clear that out and make sure. He was also kind of pretending to have like dissociative disorder traits. Like he was really trying to play on like, I don't know what's going on. I'm not even here. But they found out through testing that he was 100% faking all of it, completely faking everything. And what makes it so clear that he was very sane when he did this was the complete premeditation. Like he had written down a note saying, it's going to be a shame, I have to get rid of them. And the completely diabolical way he tried to cover up the crime after he did it, he hid the bodies, which is a logical way of thinking for a killer who wants to get away with their crime. And also, this shows that he's aware he did something wrong and would be arrested for it if it was caught. Like, that is a very clear line of thinking for a sane person. He also went back down the trail after he murdered them, and he removed Laura and Robert's names and information from any logbooks along the way at stops.
Wow.
To make sure people couldn't follow their path. Like, that is beyond
Calculated.
diabolical. So calculated. He also ripped the film out of Laura's camera and took it with him. They never found it.
Oh, that's sad too, because like her family should have that.
Which is chilling too, because I'm like, did you take pictures?
Oh,
like,
I
what
didn't even-
happened
oh,
here?
Yeah.
Together
yeah.
or during or whatever.
That's the thing. It's so
just
chilling.
removing any sort of evidence of him being associated with them.
Yeah.
Other than word of mouth, of course.
Exactly. Which is what I think happened. I'm sure they took pictures together and he thought about it and was
Yep.
like, I got to take this away.
Yep.
Which is calculated. So again, no motive found. He would not even try to spill a motive out. But they were trying to prove also that they believed that Laura, unfortunately, had been sexually assaulted. Unfortunately, because the deteriorations of her remains when they found her, they weren't able to physically prove it. but they were trying to get him to admit it because they knew they could get him on that too and get a bigger sentence on top of everything, but they weren't able to. He would not speak. They couldn't get any of it. And everything was moving towards a trial. And then suddenly the night before, out of nowhere, he pleads guilty to 2 counts of second-degree murder, which I'm like, how second-degree murder?
Yeah, like you wrote down, it's a shame these people are going to have to die.
Like the note, the removing the logbook stuff, that's all there's premeditation and this cover-up involved. All of it.
Yeah, this was clearly intentional. It wasn't, but I'm sure second-degree murder carries way lighter sentence.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah. And he took this random plea deal, and apparently the attorney felt the case wasn't as strong because they didn't have a motive. But the investigators disagreed completely, and they were like,
all
no,
the evidence, though.
We have tons of physical evidence. Yeah.
His fingerprints are there.
Yep. I don't know what the attorney was thinking.
In blood.
Literally in blood on her book was his fingerprints.
The note and then everything found in his house. I'm like, I think you
And they found
got
he was
him.
lying about amnesia too.
Yeah. And he ran. It's like,
I wonder if
hello.
they just didn't want to go through the trial.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Laura and Robert's families agreed to it, but they were not happy about it at first, but they agreed. They were also, the victims' families were so respectful of each other during this process. Like, Robert's father, Robert Mountford Sr., said that they were only going to take that plea deal. They were only going to agree to allowing that to happen if the Ramseys were okay with it. So, like, the two of them were like, we have to agree 100%. Nobody, if one person in these two families doesn't want that plea deal and wants to have a trial go through, we all agree.
That's awesome.
Which is really cool. Like, that doesn't happen all the time. And he ended up being sentenced to 30 years in prison, which I don't think is enough, but that's just me.
For murdering 2 people in cold blood, I wouldn't say so.
Yeah, and it gets worse. So
good.
People were shook from this. There was like a lot of people questioning, like we were just talking about, whether the trail was safe, freaking out about like, should I even go on the Appalachian Trail now? The crime's got a ton of coverage. So of course, again, it's very rare. Another one of these did not happen like for a long time. Like, it's a very rare thing. Now, he ended up being released from prison in 1996 after only 15 years.
What?
He got out on good behavior, which is bullshit.
Oh my God.
Oh my.
I never get that, because of course you're going to behave well if you think you're going to get let out of prison and you can do exactly what you did to land in prison in the first place.
Exactly. It makes me crazy.
It's like, okay, well, he wasn't behaving good before.
Right.
Yeah.
So why are we like extending the opportunity to someone who commits such a brutal, vicious act after serving even 50%? Like, I understand that there is reform and people, you know, all of
for
that.
sure.
Like, we're not here to get into that.
No, totally not.
But at the same time, like, it's just a huge, for lack of a better term, it's a slap in the face to the families and the victims, and to just be like, yeah, well, he's being chill here, so he can go.
Like, he
Like,
listens
what?
to us in here, so I think it's fine. And it's like, he didn't
He
even give
listens
you a
to us with
motive.
armed security.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He's locked behind bars and he's doing pretty good at it. And it's like, what? That's not the same as being allowed to wander one of the biggest trails in the country. Like, that's a little different.
He can't hunt people in prison.
Exactly. And it's like, that was such a brutal, brutal crime. And he spent time with these people. He liked these people, seemingly. Like, he got to know these people and then he brutally murdered them. That's a whole different kind of beast, in my opinion.
Definitely.
And he wasn't remorseful.
No, not at all. That's the thing.
And wouldn't even say what happened.
And it wasn't like self-defense. It wasn't like
It was just because.
a crime of passion, which would still be messed up, but at least there would be like some kind of like motive involved in it. Just nothing. Just, I had to do it and I did it.
No.
How do you deem him safe for society?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But
me either.
the families of Laura and Robert were horrified, rightfully so. That was not enough time for what was done to their loved ones. He ended up going to live with his mother back in his like childhood home in Ingram, and he had a mandatory monitoring bracelet fitted for his ankle because he was on a 10-year monitored probation. He was quiet, didn't get into any trouble, not even a parking ticket.
And then
Nothing. But remembered, he was being monitored very closely up until about 2006. So of course he's going to be quiet. He has a monitor bracelet on. 2008 came around and his neighbors reported into police saying there's all this mail piling up on his front door and like, we haven't seen him for a while. Like, you might want to go check on him. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Nervous.
So they went in. Nothing really crazy was found during the search of his house or anything, but they did find out that his utilities had been turned off because of non-payment.
Okay.
And he wasn't there.
And at this point, he's living separately from his mom?
Yeah, his mom had actually passed away from cancer like years before.
Oh, okay.
So no one's in the house, and they're like, okay, so I don't know what happened to him. So a search party is formed because they're like, we should probably find out where he is because he is like a convicted felon. And they put out posters, and they were thinking he was probably along the Appalachian Trail because that's where he would go. Mm-hmm. So they put up posters along the trail, and they were passing them out to people with his picture on them, being like, we don't know what's going on. Like, if you come across him, maybe be a little careful, which I'm like, maybe he shouldn't be out then. I don't know. That's just me.
Maybe he should be banned from the trail.
That's
Why
literally
would he not be?
My next line here is love that he was allowed back there, should be banned for life after murdering two people, but that's just me. Like, I don't know.
People get banned from like whole ass states.
Yes.
Like you're not going to ban him from the place where he killed. Yeah, for way less.
Way less.
And you're not going to ban him from the place where he brutally murdered two people.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's like a perfect hunting ground for him.
Exactly, because he knows it like the back of his hand, too.
Yeah.
So May 8th, 2008, which what's with May? The first one happened in May.
So I think May is
Something
significant
must
for
be
him.
significant. I couldn't find what, but there's definitely
Interesting.
significance.
Mother's Day.
A guy named Sean Farmer headed out to meet with his friend Scott Johnson to go fishing along the Appalachian Trail up above Dismal Falls. They'd been there a bunch of times. They'd grown up around there. They were going to camp there, I think, for just a night, just kind of hang out. Like, they do this all the time. And when Sean arrived, all of a sudden this guy walks up to him at the campsite. He didn't see he didn't see Scott yet, but this guy walks up to him. He's like an older guy, like kind of like thin and hunched over. And he's like, hey, I'm Ricky Williams.
No,
and
you're
he's
not.
like, hi, Ricky Williams. Like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I met your friend Scott. You must be Sean. Like, we were just fishing up there next to each other. And he's like, Scott told me that I could join you guys for dinner. Is that all right with you? And he's like, sure. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, cool. So together, like, they go fishing. They do some more fishing together. Together, they had fried trout and beans over a fire. They're all just sitting, shooting the shit. And when he's done, he sincerely thanked them for the meal. And they were like, no problem, dude. Like, and they said, like, this is just what you do. But Ricky Williams was actually Randall Lee Smith. And after thanking them for their hospitality, he pulled out a .22 caliber revolver and shot both Sean and Scott. Sean was hit in the temple and in the chest. And he was shot in the chest when he ran at Randall to attack him, to try to stop him. Scott was hit in the side of the neck, then hit again in the back of the neck and in the back when he ran into the woods away from him.
Shot 3 times.
3 times at least.
Oh my God.
He was literally in the woods having to plug the hole in his neck with his fingers to stop the bleeding.
Okay.
They survived this. Both of them survived. Both of them.
Wow.
And they actually fled the scene in Smith's truck. They took his truck, fled the scene. One of them is driving with literally, the one that was shot in the temple was driving. The other one is sitting there trying to hold his neck together. Like, they're driving
Your neck
down.
is pretty.
Yeah. And it's somehow it missed like every major artery and like the jugular somehow.
Wow. That's like a miracle.
And they're literally, it's dark out. They're on this like windy road, and he's been shot in the temple,
and he's
trying to
vehicle.
Like, it's wild. They ended up going several miles away and finally came upon a house, which was like miles and miles away. And a woman named Melissa Miller opened her door for them, took them into her home, and immediately called police and called the paramedics for them. Now, Sean later said that Randall Lee Smith's face, he can remember it perfectly. He said when he pulled out that gun and started shooting, there was no emotion on his face. He stared us both in the eyes and just kept coldly shooting at us. Didn't say anything, just shooting at us. And he's like, it was wild. Now, Randall Lee Smith stole Scott Johnson's Ford Ranger because they had stole his car to go get out of there. Like, stole, I say. Yeah. Fled away because they were bleeding. But Sean and Scott were able to identify him. So he's on the run in their car. They're able to identify him because someone, I think it was Melissa Miller, showed them the missing persons poster that was being circulated for Randall Lee Smith.
Yes.
And was like, is this the guy? And I guess Sean was like, that's the guy, but his name is Ricky Williams. And she was like, it's not.
No, it's not.
Like, this is him. And they were like, yeah, he killed 2 people on the Appalachian Trail like years ago. So now the police are like, oh, great, we have to go find this car. So they put out a bolo. They finally tracked the car. They went on a like huge car chase after him. He ended up flipping the truck at the end of it and crashing. He lived, but he was arrested on the spot and charged with 2 counts of attempted murder. He was brought in for treatment to New River Regional Jail Medical Unit, and he died of a blood clot soon after arriving. It just traveled to his heart.
Oh, that makes me so mad.
So he died in jail, but he was 54 years old. He looked about 110. If you look up a picture of him, he looked like he was already dead.
Wait, you said he was 54?
54.
She showed me the photo of him. Actually, while you were on vacation, I was on your computer and I opened the tab by accident. I'm like, who the fuck is this? Like, what?
Because it was just a picture of him sitting there, like, looking like the Crypt Keeper.
You know,
I kind of want to look it up right now.
You should.
It's horrifying.
He looks like Jigsaw.
He does.
Like, he looks just like Jigsaw.
He's got Jigsaw vibes,
54?
for sure.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he looked to be like 200.
Okay, I don't know who I just looked up, but it came up. It came up with this like Victorian guy, and he was like pretty hot. I'm like,
you're like,
okay, wait
a
hold on.
second.
You're like, couldn't be him.
Couldn't be Randall. Yeah.
This man?
Yes.
I'm looking at the same photo as
Yes.
Yeah, that's the pic that I scared the shit out of myself with.
54.
Okay, look at this one, Cassie. That one's even worse.
I'm on that one too.
That's
so scary.
His badness was leaking out of every pore of him.
No,
I
that
tell
man
you.
is a
Wow.
literal monster. Like,
Yeah.
in every sense of the word.
He is as nasty outside as
Okay,
inside.
anyone who agreed to eat dinner in the woods with this guy was
Yeah.
a saint.
Yes,
Because
truly.
I would run screaming in the other direction.
I'd be like, you gotta go away.
What a weird pathology he has. Like, to eat dinner with people and then
try to kill
murder them.
Yeah.
Yeah, such an intimate setting again.
Yeah,
to just
right,
be like,
yeah.
yeah, we'll share a meal, we'll chat, we'll probably learn about each other's lives over a meal.
Yeah.
And then to do that.
It's so
my
wild.
God. And who knows, like, if those 2 men didn't survive, who would have been next? Because
Exactly.
clearly, this is something that he would have continued.
Yeah,
Of course.
He's got an MO for sure.
It's like he stopped being monitored and he lasted 2 more years before the known one, at least. Who knows?
Right.
We don't know if there's
True.
any out there that,
That's what I was just thinking.
you know, and it's like he only lasted 2 years before he did the exact same thing.
But how scary is it, too, that, like, if there weren't any in the middle, he just waited for 20 years. And you know he was sitting in that cell being like, I know what I'm going to do when I get out. And
Just
as soon as I'm a
waiting.
free man, like, as soon as he got the chance, like, that's what he's going to do.
And it's like so he was clearly like out in the Appalachian Trail a lot. Like neighbors said, he was still hiking. He was still going out all the time during his monitoring period and everything.
Right.
People would see him out there. Like he was spending a lot of time going right back to where he was. And it's like, so you were, to me, like from what I read, obviously I've not been on the trail, but it's like from what I read, like you were saying, like everyone seems like they're real chill out there and everybody's like really kind and just like helping each other out and looking. Wouldn't that like, how does that not rub off on you in any way? Like you just like, and you immediately are like, these 2 guys are like, yeah, come fishing with us and
Because you're just a
have some dinner.
sociopath.
We're just hanging out and you try to kill them? Like what? Who are you?
a monster.
Like truly.
The fact that law enforcement knew that he was still hiking, because he was monitored while he was hiking, right?
Yeah.
So they knew he was out there and they didn't find that odd.
Yeah, no one was like, maybe you shouldn't do that. Like
Maybe he's going back to old patterns.
Exactly. Because for the end of this, what they find later, because they went back out to the places where people were saying they were seeing him in those weeks that he was missing from his home. And they found a campsite of his and it had a like big pile of just crap in it from him. And there was some strange stuff in there that make me question if
Like
there's other cases that are going to be linked to him, because they found audio recordings of chanting and moaning and screaming.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Of him
Just
or
just
other
that.
people?
just like sounds.
Like they couldn't distinguish.
They couldn't distinguish if they were other people or what. There was a lot of like they tried to attribute it to like the Wiccan religion items, but I was like, yeah, Wiccans don't normally like go murder people. Like I don't know if that's
It's not a violent.
it's not a violent.
No.
Like,
It's actually all about like
belief
worshiping
system.
the world and like the earth.
Yeah, I was like, I think you got that wrong. But there was also a police scanner out there, and there was a list of like police codes that would be called on the scanner.
So he could understand.
Exactly. And a ton of
studied
knives, a ton of different knives. And then they found at least 8 pairs of women's underwear
Oh, no.
and a pile of women's sunglasses and eyeglasses.
That's like some wrong turn shit.
Yeah. That's some wrong turn, Wolf Creek, like terrifying shit.
Oh, that's creepy. Because it's like he could have either killed more people or was or was like breaking into people's campsites and stealing things.
And
It could
maybe
be
like
either.
preparing for things and like doing, who knows what he was up to.
Oh my God.
That just gave me like the piles of stuff.
Yeah.
Just, it's so invasive. Like, because, best case scenario, quote unquote, these women weren't killed.
Exactly.
And they were just that, had their things rifled through. That is just, it's such an invasion of privacy. And like, it makes you so feel like, okay, well, obviously these came from somewhere. So am I even safe?
Exactly.
Like, and a lot of people who are on the AT or do camp in general anywhere, there is always kind of even as peaceful and as great as a trip as it is, there's always kind of like I'm literally in a canvas sided or like polyester, like there is a flap of fabric separating me and the rest of the world. And a lot of the times it's more so you're concerned about like wildlife, depending on where you are and things like that, not necessarily other people. But of course, that's going to be something in the back of your mind.
Of course.
And just imagine waking up and like getting up and being like, where are my underwear?
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't even fathom that because.
And it's like, okay, I know that it's the only piece. It's not like something ripped through my bag and everything's missing. It's like just this garment.
they chose one thing.
Right.
One thing.
And
to
so
take
you
with them.
know that someone was there
Mm-hmm.
and they know that you are going to find out
Oh.
that this is, it's just it's so creepy.
Well, my mind first goes to sexual assault.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that, especially because they thought like he could have possibly done it before. And if he has sunglasses and women's underwear, it just feels like they're these weird souvenirs. And also, I think that would be less likely to be reported, or it's
Exactly.
not his MO. So he
So they're
wouldn't
not
be the
connecting it.
person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too.
And imagine, like you were just saying, Danielle, like waking up and realizing that and then having to continue your trip.
Yeah.
Because you're in the middle of nowhere and like you still have to keep hiking.
Yep.
That's so scary.
You still have to sleep out there.
Yeah.
Well, I will probably tell this story at length at another time, but I wasn't on the trail, but I had someone when I was in college in my first apartment ever. I woke up to someone in my room.
Oh my God.
And I woke up and my boyfriend at the time was sound asleep next to me. And I woke up, I thought it was him, like
Of course.
touching me.
Because
touching
why
my
would
leg.
you?
And I wake up and I'm like pissed that I think it's him, like trying to do something while I'm asleep.
You're like,
sleeping,
what the
asshole.
hell?
I'm like, what the fuck? And I wake up and I see his back turned away from me.
That is a nightmare.
And it was in the middle of the night. It was New Year's.
You're
so I went to
disoriented.
sleep drunk.
Right.
Oh my God.
I was like, what is happening right now? And I turn over and there's a guy standing there and he just went,
No.
and I was just like, okay.
My
I guess no one
chills
else
have
can see me.
chills.
So I would like the shish,
The little
like
like symbol. Yeah.
And I was just like, I was frozen. Like we talk about, Cassie and I talk about this all the time, like fight, flight, or freeze. And I fucking froze.
Because what else are you going to do? You're in your most vulnerable position.
Yeah.
I was just like, what do I do? And he just backed out of the house and just left. And I was just like, for literally 30 seconds straight, which is the longest 30 seconds of my whole life, I was just like, what just happened?
Oh my God.
And I wake up Nick at the time, and he's like, wait, what? And like Liam Neeson, he's like, I'm out of here. Like,
I love it.
I'm going.
Hell yeah.
And
Did he get him?
First of all, what are you gonna do? You're
Punch
not
him.
clothed. And, you're not clothed, and you have no idea what's going on. It's the middle of the night. Like,
You guys
whatever.
aren't sober either, too,
We're
right?
not sober. I mean, it's like
We're in college.
Yeah, we're in college,
New Year's.
and so I'm just like, what the fuck happened? And he was like, he didn't do it intentionally, but he was just like, are you sure that happened? He's like, because there's no forced entry. Like, there's like, and my roommates who lived with me, I had 2 roommates, all of their stuff was there. Their laptops were out. Our purses were on the counters. Like, there's nothing missing.
But
like,
it's like, that's clearly
what
not
do you
what he was
mean?
there for. He was there to like fuck with you.
you know, this is also over 10 years ago now. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, maybe.
I
You're
know, because
right.
you
I
start
don't know.
questioning, like, what the hell happened
Yeah,
there?
I'm like, I'm not sure, actually. And he's like, maybe you just had a really fucking weird dream. Like, who knows? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And he kind of convinced me. We go back to sleep. And then the next morning, he's in the shower. I'm getting stuff ready. And I realize that both of our phones and wallets are gone.
Oh my God.
Out of our pants, like the pockets of the pants. So I'm like, okay, this definitely fucking happened.
Yeah, you're like, okay,
And
prove.
yeah, and so it's just like the invasion of like, you are here for a reason and you took these things like that have no value. We're fucking college kids.
Yeah,
right.
Like, we have a flip phone and a dollar, like one single dollar
Yeah.
bill. Like, so you have our information, you know where I live, you didn't take anything of value.
What are
And you
coming
woke me
to
up
do?
intentionally. Like,
That's
it's
the
just
part that just gets me.
so it's like the invasion of like, you are here for this one little thing. And it's just, that was a really long roundabout story to tell, like, just so I understand that like
Yeah.
invasion of what the fuck. Like, and this could have led to something way worse.
Oh my God,
And
yeah.
nothing ever came of this? Like, did you find out who did this?
No.
Ooh.
But you did, Danielle, you found your ID.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, my God. There's another layer to this
I was
story.
going to say,
I
I'm
need more.
invested. I'm invested.
I'm like, skip my story, just tell
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah, forget that.
So this is, I obviously like freak out and I tell my parents, who, of course, now I have really no money. I have no means of communication. I had to find literal change throughout the house, go to a payphone and call my family, because
Remember
this is like, it was like Christmas break. So my roommates were gone. I couldn't use their, like, everyone's off campus.
Oh my God.
And that's even scarier, too.
Yeah. So I'm just like, okay. So I finally get to them. They, you know, come help me, whatever. We reinforce the shitty apartment I'm in. And I don't know, like a month goes by and campus security called me and they're like, hey, someone turned in it was like, it wasn't my driver's license. It was the ID that you use to like get into like the dining commons and whatever the fuck. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I was like, I had it reissued, but I do lose things a lot. So I was like, okay, well, I guess like maybe I dropped it or something.
Yeah.
I'll go get it.
Yeah.
And I go in and they're like, oh, here you go. And it's my original one
No.
from my wallet
No.
that was taken.
Where did they find it? They just found it on campus?
They said someone turned
they
it
said
in.
someone turned it in.
So I wonder if like that guy just dropped it somewhere and somebody was like, oh, let me be helpful. Or like, did he turn it in?
I don't.
Ah, I hate it.
And I'm sorry, how much time in between? Like,
There's like a month.
so I wonder, like, he could have to like remind you that it happened.
I know, because if I'm thinking like if it was truly dropped, like in the moment, I mean, that would have happened like pretty immediately.
Yeah,
like someone would have been like,
exactly.
oh, here you go. And I also lived off campus. I mean, it was walking distance, but like if someone just found that on the street near my apartment, they wouldn't have gone all the way onto campus and
Yeah.
turned it in. Like it would have had to be, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Dude.
So anyways, it was just, my theory is there was construction going on. They were building new off-campus housing literally right next door to my shitty apartment and it was break, so nobody was in my parking lot because everyone had left and it was just my car there. So I think someone was like watching,
trolling around,
and they know like it's like were all your roommates like female too?
Yeah, all my roommates were female, and
so
like,
they probably know like this one girl is alone.
Yeah, and my boyfriend at the time didn't have a car,
right?
So
so they would never know.
They wouldn't have known that he was there.
So they just thought you were alone.
My God.
Which
and then
it's like, what were they planning to do if you were alone?
Right. And just to think that they were casing your apartment, like,
I know.
Like, that was purely to terrorize you. Like, that was every part of that was terrorizing.
I know. It's like, okay, so you intentionally woke me up to
That's
scare
the
me.
part that killed. That's like terrorizing.
Thing. Oh, I hate the shush thing.
Yeah.
As soon as you did that, I screamed.
To like let you know that they could get in.
Oh, and then like no panic, he just like backs out of the place. Like,
He just literally went like that, the shush thing,
and walked
slowly
backwards.
Backed out and just shut the door. It wasn't like, oh shit, she's awake, I have to go.
That's even scarier.
And you said he like touched your leg to wake you up.
Yep.
Oh, I hate it.
Yep.
Girlfriend.
I hate it.
Oh my God. You just like rocked our shit on a fucking Wednesday. Oh my God.
Like,
I know, like a crack of dawn. Yeah, sorry. I mean, and I don't mean to laugh about it because it's obviously like
no, it's like
horrific.
A nervous laugh.
But it's like kind of like I can't even fucking believe that happened to me.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that was, I mean, first of all, it was so long ago, but also it was like an out of body experience.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not happening right now.
It's like when sleep paralysis happens. Because I get sleep paralysis, and when
I'm so sorry.
It's horrible. And when you wake up, you see something in your room with you. I see it, and and every time that it happens, I don't realize it's sleep paralysis. So my brain immediately goes, and I'm sure this is what yours did. It's just like, is this really happening? Like, is someone actually in this is really what's going to happen right now?
Yeah.
Like someone's in my room. It's always that like weird, like train of thinking where you're just like, oh shit, this is actually happening.
Right.
The thing I have feared is happening. Someone's in my room.
Yeah.
And luckily mine
and
goes away because it's not real.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah.
I can't
And
imagine realizing
honestly,
it's real.
Yeah, it is the things your brain do when you're in a fight or flight or not even that, or just like a situation, a traumatic type of situation. You think you would have if someone presented me with that and we're like, what would you do? I think I would have had a completely different reaction than what I actually did, which was nothing.
Right.
So,
just freeze. Which is what I would do.
Because I don't know. And who knows what would have happened if I did have a different reaction. I have no idea. I don't fucking know. And it's like, I don't think I've ever told that story on the podcast, but Cassie certainly knows. And it's just, I feel for people who have been in those situations, and especially ones who you find out later that were in that situation and didn't make it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know how it feels in that first moment of like, what is happening right now?
Somebody is in my room right
just
now.
like chaos. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
That is everyone's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Literally.
I'm going to have nightmares tonight. Oh my God.
Oh.
So sorry to derail this whole thing.
No, I'm sorry that happened to you.
Jesus. I'm glad you're here telling the story today.
Me too.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Like and when you're camping, you don't even have the like luxury, quote unquote, of a door. Like it's just like
it's like a zipper.
Literally anybody can just walk into anybody's thing and just unzip the thing. I can't fathom that.
Yep. And I mean, we say this all the time in regards to camping, like, because a lot of people are afraid to camp outside or go by themselves or whatever. And I can totally understand that. I mean, I'm a huge baby. Like Cassie will solo hike and I'm just like so scared too. But it's like, it just goes to show like my story, everybody else's story that has gone through something like this. Like it happens way more often in places you think you're safe.
It's true. It really does.
And so like that's our biggest thing is we don't want to deter anyone from hiking and exploring and camping because some awful things have happened there, because awful things can happen
everywhere.
And it's like the more cases you're going to hear that somebody was just lying in bed in their locked house or locked apartment and somebody comes in. Like we have like a sneeze full of outdoor crimes that have committed on our library that we've done. Like 90% of them are homes with a lock and a door. And
sponsored by Simply Safe.
Oh no.
SimplySafe.com.
Code NPAD.
It's literally, home security, like to live in an age that we have that option. Like people who don't have that, like, please take advantage of it because you won't ever regret it.
Phenomenal.
Having some sort of.
It's really.
I love my little panic button.
I love my little boop boop when somebody opens the door.
Love it all.
It's like it's a comforting feeling knowing that you have that.
It's a nice line of defense.
All right, well,
so that was
thanks
my
for
tale.
Sharing.
Sorry that I horrified everybody.
How do I follow that up, everybody? Jesus.
Well, I'm excited that you picked the Grand Canyon to go to for your story.
That's true.
We went there for one story, but it was a long time ago. And I think it's very different than the story that you're telling. But the Grand Canyon is just such a, I think when you think of national parks, the first one many people think of and gravitate towards is the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just so massive and it's just so different than most of the landscape in the United States. And it's just such a cool park. And it is located in the northwestern corner of Arizona, and it's close to like Utah and Nevada. So or Nevada, sorry. If you say Nevada people are pissed.
Oh, that's happened to us before. And I literally always forget that there's even another way to say it. Like when I try to remember the other way to say it, I'm like, how else do you say it?
I know. Well, trust me, we say the word mountains about 5,000 times every episode, and I don't say the T, I say mountains.
Mountains.
Oh, I do too. Mountains.
That's how I would say it. Mountains.
Riots have ensued.
Riots.
Oh, well, I say the T that actually does exist and exactly. And people either really love that or fucking hate it. I'm like, sorry for pronouncing words.
Yeah, they're like, it's mountains, stupid. I'm like, sorry.
Like, wow.
And then you say mountains, and they're like, it's mountains, stupid. I didn't know there were so many ways.
You are gaslighting me.
It's also, I can't know the regional pronunciation of every single place in the entire United States.
I know.
And is it the beauty of the world that we all speak differently?
Regional dialects.
Just shut up and let me talk.
And especially New England, it's like we talk a lot different.
Yeah, say Worcester. How about that? Look at the word Worcester and say it.
And say it out loud to my face.
Yeah, right now.
Say Leominster. Look at it and tell me that it says Leominster.
Yeah.
Read any town in Massachusetts.
Situate. Situate. Say Situate.
Hingham. All of them.
I don't know. It's like, okay, can we agree when I say mountain, you know what I'm speaking about? It's
that's so funny.
Like the
I would
physical
never
landform.
I would never even pick up on that because I say mountain. I don't pronounce mountain.
I never knew I was wrong until I said it out loud on a podcast.
Oh, you find out a lot about yourself when you start a podcast. Like, I didn't know that I say rum like rum.
Yeah.
That's like, apparently that's a very New England thing, and I didn't realize it.
I found out that my voice is actually not my voice. Somebody was like, you don't talk like that. And my friend of 10 years was like, no, she does. Like, she always has. And they were like, no, she doesn't. I was like, oh, cool. Who knew?
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know what one word I learned, and I didn't learn it that I said it this way until I moved down south, but everyone made fun of me for it because I lived down near Tennessee for a few years, and when I went down there, I guess I say both, or both instead of both. I add an L into it. I'll be like both.
Both.
How
do I say it?
I know, now I'm like, how do I say it?
Both. Yeah, I say
you
both. But you say both. That's
both.
like,
I
say like clothes,
both of you.
and people think I say it weird.
Both of you.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
it's just
do
like
I
all these
add an
little
L?
things, and people are like, that's wrong.
I'm like, do I add an L now? I feel like I might.
If I say like,
but here's the thing. Did anyone threaten your life for saying it that way?
That's the real crux of the issue.
That's always the crux. So anyway.
It's like, do you have any education at all? And I'm like, yes, I do.
You're like, I swear I do.
You're like, who cares?
This is how I talk.
I'm here, okay?
Anyway, we're going to the Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon.
Let's Grand Canyon it out.
The Grand Canyon, where that place doesn't care how you say it.
No.
The Grand Canyon.
The Grand
It's
Canyon.
It's the Grand Canyon.
The Grand
Grand Canyon is 200.
Okay, now you're not speaking any language that we
You're
understand.
speaking in cursive.
This is probably true. Well, it is 277 miles long, which is 446 kilometers. And there are two major cities that are closest to the Grand Canyon. So there's Phoenix and Las Vegas. So it makes it a really popular destination because it's easy to get to. And it's also not too far from Tucson as well. So there's just like so many different ports you can get into to get there. So it's one of the reasons why it is so visited, besides it being insanely beautiful.
I've never seen it, and I've always wanted to.
Me either. It's on my
Really?
list of places to go.
I gotta see it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Well, I say I haven't seen it. I've flown over it, and I could see it from the plane.
Oh, that's pretty
so that
cool.
was cool.
I love that.
It's like, oh, there it is. I'm here.
I've been here.
Kind of.
Can you just touch down really quick?
It's like, just like parachute me out. It's funny because it's a national park now, obviously a huge national park, but it was actually first a national monument. It was established as a national monument in 1903 by President Theodore Roosevelt, and he stepped off his train and he walked over and he declared it as, quote, a natural wonder absolutely unparalleled throughout the rest of the world, and made it a national monument.
Imagine
having that power.
That was wild. I think you guys do have that power. You got some kind of power.
It's like, damn, you just like walk off a train and you're like, natural wonder,
I said
national
so.
monument. I say so.
Yeah.
It's like the world designates this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, he was the conservation president and he helped establish like different national forests and national parks. And it's funny because I'm actually working on a episode right now that I'm writing about Theodore Roosevelt National Park.
Ooh,
and
wow.
more of his story, which goes like very lengthy and a lot of stuff. But he was part of the Grand Canyon being established as a national park. And like I kind of said earlier, tons of people visit, and tons of people there's almost 6 million people who visit the Grand Canyon National Park every single year.
Oh my God.
Wow, that's nuts.
People want to see that wonder, you know?
It's true.
Well, it's also one of those places where you can visit year round. It's not if you go further north and there's snow all the time, you can go there any time of year and visit, which makes it a really cool destination because you're like, I'm freezing. I'm going to go hang out at the Grand Canyon.
I'm just going to hang at the Grand Canyon.
Also, as magnificent and beautiful and wonderful as the Grand Canyon is, it is filled with a lot of stories of death, and there's hauntings. There's been plane crashes, helicopter crashes, people fall off cliffs there. There's just a lot of morbid stuff that happens inside of the Grand Canyon. And as of 2021, around 900 people have died there.
Whoa.
And it's a lot. And
Yeah.
on average, 11 people die there every single year.
Wow.
That's a
I didn't-
lot.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I mean, I can imagine just because there's all those cliffs everywhere and there's wildlife.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
just
in the
those
heat,
numbers.
heat
Yeah.
exhaustion and
Yep.
dehydration and things like that, of course, play a role.
Yeah, and that's a big one there. And then some of it too is from the Colorado River because there's drownings because so many people do kayaking trips and
Oh,
river
yeah.
rafting trips down.
That's exactly what I'm going to talk about.
Hey,
Well, that's perfect because that will lead me right into your story.
Look at
Oh
that.
my gosh, look at that. It's
that
like we
segue.
it's like we planned this and we didn't even. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the Grand Canyon or the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. And the Colorado River rapids run through that national park. And somebody that really loved that national park and the Colorado River rapids was Morgenheimer. So Morgenheimer was a 22-year-old guy, and he absolutely loved nature. I think you guys would have gotten along well with him. He had grown up in Wyoming, and from an early age, he just loved being outside. He completely fell in love with like camping and swimming and hiking, just anything he could do outside, he wanted to do. His family said that he was an excellent swimmer and had a ton of outdoor experience. So he'd gone to the University of Wyoming, he studied English, and once he was finished there, he decided that he really just wanted to pursue a career that would keep him outside. And so working for a rafting company couldn't have been more up his alley. And the specific company that he went to work for at the time of his disappearance was Tour West. So they hire guides who will take out visitors out on rafting tours, and they can just take in the sights and hang out together, and it's supposed to be a great time. And that's exactly what he was doing in June of 2015. And he was so looking forward to this job. He actually wrote at the end of the previous year, like New Year's 2015, he said, "This year I've gained confidence in every aspect of my life. I'm more driven to continue moving forward than ever before. I can't even begin to express the depth of my love for this world in writing, but this is my thank you note to every one of you who have made this year what it was."
Oh.
So he was really looking forward to 2015.
Yeah.
And he loved working for Tour West. And before this specific trip that I'll talk about today, he had been a guide on many previous trips. He'd actually done this same run that he was set to be doing numerous times before. And all of those trips were successful, went off without any hitch whatsoever. So this specific trip, they were heading out in June of 2015. It was an 8-day rafting trip going on, and he was going to be one of the guides coming along to lead the trip. Now, by June 2nd, the group was actually 6 days into the trip, and they had just arrived at Pumpkin Spring, which, have you guys seen Pumpkin Spring?
No.
Mm-mm.
It's so cool.
It's adorable.
It really is adorable. It is at mile marker 213, and it's one of the main landmarks that people really love to visit on a trip to the Grand Canyon. It's this massive orangey rock formation that kind of just juts outside of the wall of the canyon, and it got its pumpkin name because it's kind of round, or it is round in shape, and it looks like a pumpkin was just tucked onto the side of the canyon.
So cute.
I just looked it up. It is cute.
It looks like a fall decoration that they were like, this fits nicely here.
Like a giant just stuck a big giant pumpkin in the side of
It was like, I like to decorate.
It's like fall, bitches.
And it's
That
even
is
got
really cool.
Yeah, right? And it's even got like vertical streaks going up and down the sides, like a real pumpkin would.
I love it.
The only unfortunate thing about it is that you should not swim inside of it. People recommend that you actually don't go too close to it, to like don't touch the water, because there are super high levels of different metals like zinc, lead, copper, and everybody's favorite, arsenic. So don't go swimming there.
I'm literally looking at a photo of a guy touching the water.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was looking at a photo of a guy like within the water, and I was like, you should get out.
Fully
sir.
immersed within the water.
Like, that's not safe. You have lead poisoning now.
You have all the poisonings now.
You gotta look at Pumpkin Rock from afar. Just appreciate it from a distance.
Yeah, an aerial distance.
Despite
even.
the cute name.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's misleading.
And it probably looks better from afar too, because it's like, oh,
You
pumpkin.
take it all in. Yeah.
Can't really tell. You're like, maybe that is a pumpkin.
Is it? I don't know. Let me
Not
get further
sure.
from the toxic metals. So the group is heading out to see Pumpkin Rock. They make it there. They get their rafts all settled. They start exploring around. Hopefully they did not jump in. They have a great time. And at about 4 p.m, they decide that they're ready to keep going. And it's also getting later, so they're like, we're probably going to set up camp soon. So they're getting all their boats set up to take off. And while everybody was doing so, Morgan, who I was talking about earlier, and the actual leader of the trip, they were standing near a cliff just chatting. And Morgan said something to this lead guide about just taking the rest of the afternoon off. And as he was talking to the guide, one of the people that they were like, one of the clients, we'll call them, who was on the tour, had a question for this lead tour guide. So the tour guide turned around to answer him, had a really brief conversation. And when he turned around, Morgan was gone, like totally gone. And he was like, well, we were just having a conversation. Like, where'd he go?
That's weird.
So he kind of peeks around a little bit and he's like, I don't know, like he must have just taken the rest of the afternoon off like he was saying. So we'll just keep going. Like he must have just headed out. That was not the case. The afternoon continued, and a couple of the people that were on the trip were like, hey, where's Morgan? But they were like, oh, he just took the rest of the day off. But if he had taken the rest of the day off, they expected him to at least come back for dinner, and he didn't arrive for dinner. The guests ate dinner, they went swimming, and at this point, they really actually are setting up camp. And somebody's like, where's Morgan? He should be back by now. So at this point, it was very clear that something was wrong, and everybody was getting very antsy. And he hadn't arrived back by 7:26 that night, so one of the group members reported him missing, called the police and reported him missing. Morgan was described as a 22-year-old male, 6 feet tall, 175 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes. He was last seen wearing a dark-colored astral personnel flotation device, a blue plaid long-sleeve shirt, a pair of Chaco, I think, flip-flop sandals, a maroon baseball cap, and brightly colored shorts. He also had a purple water bottle with him, and on the side of his calf, he has a cross tattoo. So that's what he looked like, that's what he was wearing, and those are some distinguishing characteristics. Now, immediately a massive search ensued. There were search and rescue teams, park rangers, co-workers, even people on that trip that were looking for Morgan. They were using binoculars to see if they could see anybody like lurking in a more secluded spot. They had helicopters, boats, all kinds of means were used to search. And the search radius was about 15 miles all around where he was last seen. And then they even went as far as a place called Diamond Creek, which is about 12 miles west of Pumpkin Spring. And they could not find this guy anywhere. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense that he would just like go missing, or even just that he like fell into the water, because he was wearing a flotation device and he was, again, a very skilled outdoorsman. So if he had fallen into the river, you would think that the flotation device would have kept him afloat. And you would also think that he would have yelled out like, or like, hey, I'm falling, like
just anything,
help down here. Anything, but
a loud
nobody
splash.
Yeah, literally
splash,
any noise.
Nobody heard anything. And again, there's a lot of people on this trip. They didn't hear anything. So the searcher said at the time, quote, he definitely has the skills and ability to perform the job and be a person we have a high likelihood to find. But to this day, he's never been found.
What? He just vanished?
He just completely vanished without a trace. And the searchers now say that they assume he must have drowned and was carried by the strong currents, because there's like whitewater rapids out there. But how did that happen?
Yeah.
Like nobody heard anything. When did he drown?
That's wild.
So strange. So they said, like, all the areas where the whitewater is, the rapids are, it's really impossible to search those areas. So the search was scaled back after 6 full days. And now, instead of an active search, it's a more limited search. Rangers and pilots in the area search while they're in that specific location, but they're not mandated to be searching constantly. So he literally just vanished without a trace.
And when did this happen?
This was in 2015.
Oh, okay.
So this is a while ago now. And as a way to remember Morgan and as a way to honor his love for the outdoors, his family actually worked with the Institute for Shipboard Education, and they set up the Morgenheimer Memorial Scholarship Fund. So it does seem like they think he's like not going to return. And according to this Semester at Sea website, the scholarship, quote, has the ability to offer a new beginning, fresh perspective, and unparalleled educational experience to a future semester at Sea voyager. And it will be awarded annually to recipients who state a spirit of adventure, love of people, or desire to experience new cultures. And again, this missing persons investigation, it's still ongoing. So anybody with information on the location of Morgenheimer should contact the National Park Service tip line at 928-638-7840.
My first thought is, if he did drown and his body was carried away, I feel like the lack of a splash or anyone really seeing anything is kind of odd. But if he was to fall and maybe had like struck his head on something and was knocked unconscious, that's may be a reason that he wasn't vocal. And a lot of times, like, people say, like, you think of people actively drowning from the movies of like splashing around like help, 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 and being vocal, but most of the times it's not like that. It's like a silent thing.
Yeah.
So if he
sense.
did have some sort of blunt force trauma that rendered him unconscious, he couldn't speak, and then he drowned and was carried away and was just never found, which obviously doesn't make it any less horrific.
Yeah.
But that's like that's the only logical thing I can think of. But it is just so.
But then what about the flotation device?
Yeah, that's the thing.
He was wearing
it's
one.
That's the thing that's super weird.
He has like he was with a lot of people, and that's also kind of when you were saying that it's like, oh, where's Morgan? It's like, oh yeah, he's just away for the afternoon. It's like telephone. It's like as soon as one person says something, everyone just accepts it, and they're like, oh yeah, he's fine.
Away for the afternoon. It's fine. Yeah.
But he was also the guide, so wouldn't it be kind of weird for him to just disappear for the whole afternoon?
Yeah, there was other guides too, like he was along as a guide and then there was a lead guide, but still.
Yeah.
I guess
but
that maybe they like took turns leading or something like that, but.
Yeah. Like they got their own breaks but it's still just like it's your own trip and you're gone for, I guess they did report it at 7:26 that night. So he wasn't gone for that long, but it's just so
I don't know,
weird.
but even like you said, he was in an
strange.
active conversation with somebody.
That's the weird thing, is that he hadn't even technically gotten permission to take the rest of the afternoon off. You know?
Yeah, and then the guy just turns around and he's gone.
Yeah.
And like no one saw him, like no one was like, oh yeah, I saw him go that way.
Right.
Like
nobody said that.
That's weird.
Super strange. It's like he literally just vanished into thin air. And I guess another possible explanation could be that, you know, he wandered off into the wilderness and like did take his afternoon off and ran into some trouble out there that he couldn't handle, I guess.
Wow.
True. And I mean, as experienced, like as a outdoorsman or woman you are, person, it's just nature always wins.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's always
pretty much
something that you can't prepare for.
Yeah, most of our stories that when people lose their lives, it's like these are very experienced people.
You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's a total valid point too. It's like maybe he wasn't in the water at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was just somewhere else and something happened.
I almost lean more to that theory just because of the flotation device.
Yeah, because that is very odd, because you would think that even if he did drown and was unconscious, his body would have been visible, I would think.
I would think somewhere.
Or like, I don't know, washed up somewhere, like could have gotten caught somewhere. Like you would think that he would have turned up.
Because they immediately looked for him. So it's not like this was like weeks and weeks later that they were suddenly like, oh, we should look for him. And like, you know, that's when you're like, okay, you might not find him.
I guess there was 3.5 hours in between the time that he went missing and the time he was reported. So depending on how fast those rapids are going, he could have gotten caught up in them and really gone far. But still, again, why didn't he turn up?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so sad.
That is so sad.
There's so many possibilities too, because of course in the Grand Canyon, when you're in like certain heat and stuff, you can always heat exhaustion, confusion, like if he was disoriented for any reason or any, like there's just so many things that could happen. And we said earlier how huge the Grand Canyon is.
Yeah.
That there's just so many places that he could be, that it's a really tragic story.
You just feel so bad for his family, because it's like they just don't have an answer as to what happened to their son or their brother or anything.
Yeah. That's literally what I was about to say. It was just, those are, I think, the hardest, because the outcome, there is no closure. Right. And I mean, I hate to even say that word, because there is never, I personally believe that there is no closure when you are the person that's losing a loved one. Yeah. That there is no closure for you as far as like, you know, getting over, quote unquote, or moving forward from the loss of a loved one, but
like finality,
the very least knowing where their remains are, what happened,
and having a place to visit them and remember them,
and even knowing if they are alive or dead. Like you assume they are not alive anymore in this case, but you're like, I don't know that, because like we don't have a body. We've never seen a body. We don't have any kind of scene or anything like that. Like, and no matter what, you're going to hold out. I would probably end up holding out hope forever. Right. Like until you gave me a body that told me, I don't think I could be able to accept completely that they were gone.
Because it's almost like your own survival mode that you have to go into. And you would probably just it's better to imagine that he is still out there alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, really tragic case. I hope that he does eventually get found, I would hope alive, but even just so his family could have something, you know?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And I guess the kind of hopeful side of that is that it was a while ago, but it was still kind of recently, where there still might be people like that will hear this story or just will hear his story some way and be like, I was there that day. Like I remember seeing him, you know, so there's still plenty of people that there might be someone out there that still has the information that could help.
It has even one piece to the puzzle.
Definitely. So call that phone number if you do and you're listening.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
Well, we had a lot of ups and downs.
We did.
In the last hour and a half. That was a wild ride.
It was. It's always a wild ride.
Yeah. But thank you for coming on. It was great to catch up with you guys again. Thank you for sharing your stories. And I would say we have to do this again because I'm putting it out there in the future.
I love that because I was going to say the same thing. I was like, we have to do it again.
More.
2 is not enough.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, you guys. This was so much fun. It was great to record with you and hear the stories. Thanks for doing all the research that you did. And I guess for everyone else, we will see you next week or next episode whenever we're putting out another episode. So in the meantime, enjoy the view.
But watch your back.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us again this week. If you have a trail tale you'd like to share, send us an email at npadstories@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at National Park After Dark and on Twitter at NPAD Podcast. Become an outsider by joining our Patreon, where you'll gain access to monthly bonus stories and exclusive content.
And remember, when you support our partners, you're supporting our show. To access our special discount codes along with source information from today's episode, check out the show notes. For information on the show, to shop our merch store, sign up for our newsletter, and more, visit npadpodcast.com. And if you're enjoying the show, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.